Oh dear. Hello everyone. Sorry for the serious network issues which just plagued us for that last little attempt at a podcast. We will be resuming that conversation in the week or next Friday, whenever's easiest for everyone. I will, of course, listen back to everything I missed, which was basically the entire thing, and yada yada, all the rest of it. It really does get on my nerves, these sorts of tech issues, but there you go. That's what happens sometimes. I mean, we do a good enough job of kind of working through the worst of it. But it is, yeah, it is a fucking irritating sort of thing. Duncan will be joining me again for this discussion, for the little live stream. And whoever else really wants to, just send me a message on Skype. So there you go. Alaric says, don't fuck this up this time. Dude, I actually did nothing wrong in that last little intrepid attempt at a podcast. That was absolutely nothing to do with me or any of my actions. I worked to resolve the situation and I was rather unable. I need to restart my computer, restart everything. Try this, try that, turn this off, turn that on, restart this, yada yada yada. Just fucking gets on my nerves. Anyway, enough of that. So, what do we got here? Not many viewers yet, not many comments, not much to laugh at or with. So, let's think about what's been going on in the world. Not a lot. What have I been doing? Just the usual. Been compiling some writing for something I'm going to try and publish. Basically, the bulk of my writing over the past 2 years, I'm going to try and basically lump together, publish it, and see what happens. Adam, have you read Fado? No. Did you watch any of your old vids, Senpai? Says Alarix. Trying to think. Probably. No, I haven't. Not yet, no. Oh yeah, from a month ago or so. No, I haven't yet, dude. I will probably do that tomorrow or whenever. Yeah, so apologies. I'll probably bully you. Oh, probably. No, no. I won't bully you that much. Bullying has lost its appeal for me. Johnny Churchill says hi. Hello. Omega Generation, what's up, goys? Dude, the plural for goy is goyim. Do you not even Jew speak? Come on, know thy enemy. And then Armenian Chica says, "What's going on, boys?" That's it's like the gayest thing you could ever say. What's going on, boys? Like, what the fuck do you care? Adam, in your speech at the London Forum, it wasn't the London Forum, it was the Extremist Club. There were 2 points where people shouted out, yes, and they were both instances from one person who was rather drunk at that meeting. It was the first time they'd had someone come in pissed. And that particular individual, well, I shan't say much on the matter beyond he shouldn't have been there. He should have been removed from the room. Alas, that didn't happen. What did he say when he shouted out? I can't remember. Um, no, I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember now. Something about Jews and something else. I think I mentioned like politics and control and something, and someone said something about Jews and Zionists or something. Unfortunately, in these sorts of nationalist circles, and the extremist club, just to be clear, isn't a nationalist thing. It's an everything thing. They entertain um, conversation and speeches from everyone, people on the left, people on the right, people who are non-affiliated. So it's kind of just kind of an open intellectual salon for discussion. It doesn't have any allegiance, whereas the London Forum does actually have kind of identitarian nationalist sort of bents to it. But unfortunately, with a lot of this, you have this kind of old guard of English nationalism, British nationalism. You do see this really in plenty of places. You have this kind of old guard of nationalists who just fucking bumble on about the Jews and Zionist domination and all this bullshit. And yeah, there are a couple of people like that who are there. It's not my sort of thing. It's simplistic and fucking boring, to be honest. To be very honest, um, and there's never anyone actually intelligent really drawn to those sorts of things in that way. But yeah, that was that. And the other one was when I mentioned Nice, and some prick decided to say allegedly when I mentioned people being killed, women and children being killed. So yeah, allegedly. No, it did happen. Have I missed you talking about art? Asks Charlememe. No, if you go into my channel and the playlists and the Plebeian podcast playlist, you will find the 20-minute discussion Ed and Kate, Duncan and Kata had without me because my network issues were really terrible. Now, however, they seem to be my network seems to be working properly. So, fucking sod's law in it. You're trying to do something important and you can't. All of a sudden, you do like an informal live stream to just relax on a Friday evening, and everything works well. But yeah, that discussion about art and politics, we will resume that in the week or next Friday, when my just as long as my network is functioning as it usually is. But one of these unfortunate instances where I just decided not to do that, so that's fine. We'll make do. And I've left it online, of course, because Duncan and Cage's conversation was very interesting and insightful and fruitful. Um, so it's just not to worry. What was in my glass during that speech? Oh, that was Guinness. It's fucking piss water. Terrible. I asked for Old Crafty Hen, and Stead, one of the guys, went down and looked for me. He came up with this fucking Caribbean spiced ale. It's fucking putrid, disgusting. Really, perfectly nice dark ale, and they added some fucking nigger fucking juice to it. Terrible. Not even fucking once. So I settled for a Guinness instead. It's fucking trash, honestly. But you can't always have everything you like, I suppose. But next time I will be getting my own drink, and I will be judging intensely what I have and what I ingest. Guinness is piss, mate. It's fucking water. It's just dark. It's trash. Guinness is a fucking weak, watery. It's mate. How can you fucking like it? It's like water. At least Old Crafty Hen. That's a fucking That's a fucking proper ale right there, my son. All right. Everything else doesn't. Nothing else comes close. Oh, Otter. Otter is very good as well. Uh, King Goblin is quite sensible as well. Dartmoor Brewery nearby where I live, they do some good stuff there as well. Local breweries. Um, but this fucking mass-produced, it's just it's fucking swill. It should be a crime to make bad ale. To be very honest, it's cool. I don't drink. Like I will have some ale, a bottle of ale now and again. Get drunk. I don't care about that. It's about the quality of this thing which I've purchased and the time and spirit which has gone into it. And it's enjoying a high quality kind of luxury, which is an expensive ale or mead or something. Um, it shouldn't just be treated like water as something to whet your thirst or to get feel buzzy on. I think that's a waste of money and a waste of time and a waste of energy in making it. If you want to spend all that time making something and then you're just gonna chug it to get pissed, like you might as well just drink water, or whatever, right? Do you drink whole milk? Yeah. I mean, we usually buy semi, but I don't drink much milk, to be very honest. I don't have it in my tea or anything. Um, oh, good grief, Duncan! I forgot to send you the link to the Hangout. Sorry. Um, I'll do that right away. Right, here you go. Thing is, I don't like beers or lagers. I only really like really dark and strong ales. Everything else is just like lemonade. I don't like it. It's you you don't have this with Old Crafty Hen. There's like a fullness and a satisfaction to every single mouthful. It's all good. It's this lovely malty, almost toffee kind of taste in some respects. Every mouthful feels full bodied and nourishing. Like it's good for you. And anything weaker than that, anything like lower than 7%, um, is just and anything lighter than like mahogany, anything it's just not good enough. Ever drank Newcastle Brown? No, I'm a while away from Newcastle, but did you let the Guinness settle? That's a strange thing to ask, but thinking about it, yes, it had been there for quite a while before I was even drinking it. It wasn't that bad, like it's just Guinness. But I would have much preferred Old Crafty Hen. I later fucking found out they actually did have it, um, but I think instead, or whoever forgot. Yeah, I'll give it a go if I can. Anti-lager is a code word for anti-white, says the Aussie. Come on, lad. It's like illegal now to bring. I cannot stand lager. I think like things like Budweiser. What the fuck are you American twats doing? That's fucking terror. What the fuck? It should be considered a crime against God to make Budweiser and to ingest it. It should earn you the death penalty. To be very honest, it's that bad. It's worse than poison. Yeah, Carling's terrible as well. Love how we're all just shitting on these mainstream drinks. What's a good video to show a liberal white woman if I'm trying to red pill her? That is the most beta thing I've ever read. Look, Omega generation. You don't want to literally be Omega, do you? The only way to red pill a woman is to not be a cuck yourself in your own person and your own life's achievements. They will not be convinced by arguments or logic or rationality. Women react to emotional stimuli for the most part. There are exceptions, of course, but generally speaking, that's the case. The only way you're going to quote unquote red pill this woman like that quickly and that directly is by yourself being successful, confident, intelligent, and attractive. So, dude, anything else, you're wasting your time, and you're better off doing something more constructive. Drink stouts or gauge. Oh dear. The weak must fear the strong. Alcostocracy. Yeah, this is pretty much it, you guys. It's an alcostocracy here, but only the right kind. Yeah, I have to just regurgitate here what Anne Reactionary is saying. Don't try to red pill, quote unquote, red pill anyone. All you're going to do is piss them off and confuse them. Pushing things upon people in this sort of manner almost never works unless they are already emotionally willing to accept it. It's incredible when you look at human psychology and the ways in which we process and judge information before us. It's often a slow process, and especially for a liberal, your ordinary kind of liberal, kind of middle class plebeian sort of person, they to quote unquote red pill them is to basically rip apart their entire worldview, all of their values, all of the ways in which they see the world. Everything has to change. So, you have to start actually slowly, and it always happened with them in their own lives. They'll observe something concerning, or something will happen to them, and that's how it happens. It doesn't come through. Oh, anti-racist is a code word for anti-white. I bet you didn't know that. Like, that isn't going to fucking convince anyone unless they're already open to the very concept at an emotional level. So, hello again, Duncan. I'm just rambling about people red pilling people. Prior to that, I was rambling about degenerate.
I heard that something about beer.
Yeah, trash, lager, trash. Pretty much everything apart from really dark ale and strong mead is trash. To be quite honest with you, and it should be illegal. And I don't want anyone watching my videos who doesn't agree. Just to make that very clear. You are an enemy of the white race, to be honest, lads. If you disagree. I actually had...
Oh, no. Drink like White Russians or something.
Vodka's terrible as well. Don't fucking drink vodka, lads. Unless you actually are Russian, where it's like a staple part of your diet.
But what about cider?
Yeah, actually, yes, we can make an exception for old Scrumpy for a bit of cider. We'll go out into the apple orchards, get your apple press, throw a few in there, and get a bit of cider. Leave it for a few months to mature, and put it in a bottle, take it to market, and all the rest. So cider. Yeah, cider if it's locally made. That's the thing with all these things. The best alcoholic beverages are ones which are made organically and naturally and locally for the most part. There really are few mass-produced things like this which are really worth the price for them.
There's some really good stuff called from Williams Brothers, a brewery in Scotland. It's really good. They've got a beer called Cease, which is a sort of a half lager hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the strong stuff there. Do like a good stout.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Uh,
For me, it's not about just about how drunk you get, but it's the quality and with ale, a good ale has a kind of deep taste
yeah,
to it.
sure.
It has a richness to it, and that's what's important. And you don't get that in lighter drinks where it's just water with a slight bit of kind of a barley flavor. If you want that, you can buy barley cordial and you can fucking drink that. It's probably cheaper, but there you go. Somerset accent, yeah, Somerset Devonian, the farmer accent, also the pirates accent. We're from Plymouth, you know. It's fucking great. Yeah, wine. Yeah, wine. I'm really weak to wine. Like a glass, I can really feel it. It's kind of strange. I can have like several. I can have like 2 packs of old crafty hen, and I'm fine. But a fucking glass of cider just fucks me up. I mean, no, sorry, that's wine. So I'm immune to cider as well, like everyone else. But yeah, it's all good stuff. Eh?
Mainly with meals, wine.
Yeah. Obviously, it depends on the meal. It had to be something appropriate. Oh, my nan, my base nan, she puts wine in everything with her cooking. And one of the best things she ever did was like a game pie with wine in it. And you have this gamey flavor of the venison and of quail as well, and it are separate. And you have kind of a strong, rich red wine taste along with that. Great stuff. The venison and wine and mushrooms go really well together. Those three in particular.
They do indeed, yeah. And then on the opposite side, like you can some food with wine, or you do a white wine sauce. It goes really well with seafood, calamari, and
yeah. Oh well. Here we are talking about fucking alcohol. It's alright, we're allowed to do that on these sorts of live streams. Don't people enjoy the buzz of a few drinks? I don't really enjoy getting drunk. It makes me lethargic and really relaxed. Obviously, but I get impatient as well when I drink. Oh well, wine does make me very impatient. So there you go. Aqua insane. Oh dear. Capital letters in the middle of the latter half there. Not a good sign. Adam in all caps. Can you add me to the call? I will help you a lot. Add me to the call, Adam. Subscribe to me. I'm sorry, Aqua, but I'm not convinced. What exactly do you think I need help with? Who the fuck are you, and what do you think? Right. Right, okay, I see what's going on here. Ah, you poor lad. You poor boy. You need to stop watching this and you need to go to bed. It's past your bedtime. Right. Yeah. Duncan, can you still hear me?
yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm just not trusting my connection right now. Oh dear. Yeah, we get some strange people who subscribe to my videos. I was gonna say earlier, the other day I had, unfortunately, I think it was Highlander King, one of the guys who uploaded loads of Bowden stuff when Bowden was around. He obviously involved in the London Forum, etc. He fucking commented on my channel something about being, anti-racist as a code word for anti-white. Like, what, do you even know who I am? I don't understand how you would do that. How this guy would come to my channel, see everything I've done, and think, yeah, I'll do this. This is appropriate. This is logical. You know, I was a bit sharp. I responded saying, "You fucking retarded." And then he kind of did the whole standard thing these people do, the whole white genocide crowd, the thing they do. Surely you should have asked if it's true, true in all caps, and if it is true, then what's wrong, wrong in all caps, to believe it. Then you have this kind of silly kind of dialectic game. And I just responded to that saying, surely if you had any idea what I actually believed, if you watched like one of my videos, you'd see that this is totally unnecessary. So it was just very strange. Have I read Generation Identity by Marcus Willinger? Yes, I have constantly referred to that damn book. It's a good book. I recommend it. It's short and sweet and kind of goes into
Generation Identity.
Generation Identity by Marcus Willinger is a book. Yeah, it's not Generation Identity. You don't have to say it like that. You can just say Generation Identity. Like identitaire is just French for identity. Like it's the same word. So
ask you with as Mary Fight, isn't it?
Pardon?
Guillaume Fay wrote the book Why We Fight. I often get him mixed up with
Okay, yeah.
Marcus Willinger is an Austrian.
Right, yeah.
I've read it on a audiobook. It's all right. I mean, it's not great.
Yeah,
critiques of it you can make. But...
Yeah, you can make many critiques of it. I mean, as I've said with everyone else, with on this book many times, it's not a complete work. It's like it's an intro to the alt right or the contemporary right or the new right or identitarianism. You know, it's really an intro to what we younger whippersnappers are all rambling about. That's in my opinion. It's a good primer for this sort of our approach. A lot of the presuppositions we have, a lot of the kind of motivations we have, but it's in no way complete.
Could we talk about the art thing for a bit?
Not really. No. We're going to keep that. We're going to keep that for the Plebeian podcast, if you don't mind. Yeah, sorry. Unless it's kind of meta or outside of that, and you wouldn't mind repeating yourself. But generally, let's keep that. I would like to keep that conversation confined to that.
I was going to ask you a question based on what we said, and you didn't say anything. Just want your opinion on it. Do you not think that politics influences art just as art influences politics, if not more so?
Oh dear.
Those political persuasions will influence what they draw right about. In turn, they're hoping through that to influence other people, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, I think, my view is that these two things are different expressions of the same thing. They're different expressions of philosophy. Politics is the application of philosophy, or its physical contextualization in the space of a social setting, in a legislature, etc. Whereas art is the expression of perhaps not only philosophy, but also the higher dimensions of man, like emotions and spirituality and all that sort of good stuff. I think modern art is expressly political because it exists dialectically as a deconstructive entity. It exists to critique and attack. That's why modern art exists, as a reaction against something prior. Ergo, it is totally and absolutely political by its very nature, because it is wanting to influence the sphere around it, and the ways in which people think, and the ways in which they interact with and view the world. Thus policies, thus people's behavior, morality, etc. But art is more representative of things like morality and what one should and shouldn't do. It is an extension of these things rather than politics, which is then contextualized, given a form, a tangible, concrete form. Whereas art is often more mystical in nature. But yeah, this is exactly the sort of thing I wanted to get into with that conversation.
No.
Yeah, that's fine, man. No worry. Octavian says, I've read Generation Identity, but not Plato's Phaedo. No, of course not. I bought Generation Identity last year when I had a big book. I had a bit of money and I bought a lot of books. And I read it. I will read Plato. I will read all these other things. I want to. It's just finding the time, and you have to approach something like Plato properly, not just read it as a hobby. I mean, I would delve into it. Same with reading something like the Divine Comedy. It requires there are certain boxes need to be ticked, in my opinion, anyway. Best Evola book to start with. Fuck's sake.
I wouldn't start reading Evola straight off the bat without any.
Yeah, don't read Evola unless you've read Gain On. Before reading any of Evola's main works, read Gainon's Crisis of the Modern World. If you're very adventurous, read his Reign of Quantity and Signs of the Times. But it must be understood, Evola is, regarding esotericism and the perennial tradition, Evola is incomplete.
But what I've often said before is people should watch Jonathan Bowden's video on Evola and then read the introduction to Men Amongst the Rivers Evola and his thought, and then you feel confident enough, go on to read other works by him. Yeah, but Adam's right about reading, going on first. Definitely do that.
Oh, hello again.
Hello.
All right, just to answer that guy's question, read Gainon's Crisis of the Modern World, and if you're adventurous, read his Reign of Quantity and Signs of the Times before you read Evola's main works on traditionalism. Obviously, Evola's main works on traditionalism are Revolt Against the Modern World, Men Amid the Ruins, and Ride the Tiger. So, but like I said, or you guys wouldn't have heard us speaking to an empty thing because things cut out. Evola's standalone books on many topics speak for themselves. So his work on the Holy Grail, the Hermetic tradition, etc. You can go into those at your leisure. They deal with the topic, they open and close the book on the topic, so to speak. The Hermetic tradition in particular has been cited as one of the, if not the best explainer of alchemy and Hermeticism ever written. So, from actual occultists and Hermeticists, etc. So I'd recommend it. As much as actually the prose in that book is quite heavy and obtuse. If you're patient enough, then it's fine, not a problem. But, yeah, I mean, Evola, his articles are a really good place to start. Things about him, I think you were saying, Duncan, the introductory essay by H.D. Hansen at the start of Men Amid the Ruins.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, guys, go to Westgate Reactionaries, just type in Julius Evola, scroll down a bit, and eventually you'll come to Julius Evola's Political Endeavours by H.D. Hansen in 14, I think, parts. that's a very good intro to Evola and his political endeavours. Always helps to read about an author like Evola, not just of him. So there you go, or stuff from him. Sorry. So you have a look right down here. I'm just having a look through the comments here. What exactly is Dolphin Star programming? It seems like the links page is gone now from Nobody TM. Duncan, can you mute yourself when you are not speaking, please?
Yep.
No worries. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, Nobody TM had a shift around on his website, and he's moved a few things off there, including the links, including dialogues he'd have with people, one of which was of me and him speaking, and other bits and pieces. I don't know if it isn't there. It might resurface. Nobody TM constantly recycles material, so you can see the links page maybe pop up, somehow, somewhere, one day. But yeah, if it ain't there, it ain't there, mate. Plenty of stuff is like hidden in kind of obscure hyperlinks here and there. Just have a hunt around, maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't. So, yeah. Yeah, McCoolmug says, Mr. Coolmug, I've been reading Revolt, and I find it fascinating. It's a very good book. Evola is a heavy author, but if you can approach him properly and all the rest, then it's all right. A lot of people kind of over hype how difficult people can be, but with Evola, it is genuine. Like some of this, it can be a little difficult to follow in places. Ride the Tiger, one of his later books, is very easy to follow. His writing adapts and changes like everyone else's. Should Nietzsche be read before Evola? It's not essential, no. However, obviously, when Evola does deal with Nietzsche, it's good to know what you're talking about and know what he's talking about. So the chapter in Ride the Tiger, where he deals with Nietzsche, it's helpful to be familiar with Nietzsche in instances like that, obviously. And obviously, Evola has written whole articles and essays about Nietzsche. But you can go into Evola, he explains things. He'll use the odd Heideggerian term here and there. He'll explain what it means. He tells you where it's from. The footnotes in Evola's books are always important. The references, he references pretty much everything. And it's always good to search something up. If you see a word and there's a footnote there at the end of a sentence or for the source of a quote, follow it all up. Everything really is there in the books for you. Right. Have I read Mein Kampf? Nah. Oh dear. Oh boy. East Anglian Pride says, a bit of a posh twat, aren't you? Really, aren't you, Adam? You must be fresh out of public school and you think you know everything. The best knowledge is life experience, not what you read in books. I'll leave that leg there, guys. It fucking speaks for itself. East Anglian Pride, just fucking kill yourself. And I'm joking when I say that, but fucking hell. Oh dear. My opinions on smoking, it's bad for you. But otherwise, like, who gives a fuck? I don't see the point in moralizing everything. If you shouldn't do it. I don't care I can't control what everyone else does. I don't care. Yeah, the links page on OBDCM's website has been removed. He has changed things up, like I said. Good grief, there's so much here. Have I read the Unabomber Manifesto? Yes. Kaczynski was very interesting. I think he's still alive, isn't he, Ted Kaczynski? Yeah, very interesting stuff. Obviously very intellectual and very kind of, of that sort of thing, but yeah, I have read the Unabomber Manifesto. Have I ever smoked? No. Ted Kaczynski is Alpha Lord Superior. No, really, he's actually a moron. Well, no, I take that back. Ted Kaczynski is a fucking clever bloke, but him sending bombs to people was just fucking retarded. And it's weird with some people who are really intelligent. They're really developed in some areas, but in others, they're just morons. Like, clearly what he was doing wasn't going to have any impact whatsoever. It's like why, random acts of violence. Going out and packy bashing isn't going to fucking do anything. It won't achieve a single fucking thing. All it will do is strengthen the leftist narrative that anyone who isn't kind of a Marxist wants to kill everyone. Like, that's all it'll do. I don't think Ted Kaczynski was psychopathic. I think he just didn't. I think that was just something profoundly irrational, and he somehow justified it to himself, perhaps through hysteria and confusion and fear and a concern for the world, but he just didn't handle it properly. He should have been fucking writing books and trying to influence the intelligentsia and go on television and raise awareness of certain things and do a bit of activism here and there. He would have honestly convinced more people of his views doing that sort of thing than trying to blow people up and shit like that. Oh dear. What do I think of Charles Manson? Oh dear. Does it matter? He's a retard. I have no respect or trust for someone like that. Just one of these kind of quote-unquote individualists. Quite boring, quite destructive. The only sort of people who look up to that sort of person and take them even remotely seriously are kind of angsty millennials who think the world doesn't understand them. Like, that's it. Take it seriously. Oh, I see. Like this East Anglian pride sort of person. Oh dear. I'm going to keep reading his comments because it's quite entertaining. Apparently, I'm a shill who works for Mossad and MI5. I want white people to embroil themselves in book reading and debates rather than getting laid and procreating. Yeah, of course, everyone, just for the record, don't ever have children or families. Just read books.
Fine, you can't do both.
Yeah. You can't do both. One or the other. Like, come on, lads.
You need to spend a mandatory 20 hours of the day procreating.
Yeah. Not reading books, mate. You only need 4 hours sleep, 20 hours a day reading books, nothing else. Don't even eat. Just read until you die. That's a life worth living in my eyes.
Yeah, all you need is the
energies of the universe.
The bread of life. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, just subsist entirely on the essence of being. and just fill your mind with knowledge and like ascend to godhood.
Well, yeah, the essence of being is God, isn't it?
Yeah.
Take the bread pill.
The bread pill. Oh dear.
There's a whole thing about the bread pill, don't you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh dear.
There's a literature.
Yeah. I'm just reading the chat now. Good grief. I'm not going to read some of these because it's just a bit. Oh no.
No bully.
I don't care about bullying. It's just I'm actually laughing because it's funny. So there you go. Yeah, I mean, having sex with women, are you fucking gay or something? You know, women are fucking gross, lads. To be honest, we should go our own way and embrace homosexuality as a last stand of implicit white identity. That's the only true course for us alpha males. Embrace the manabund. And, you know, don't be such beta cucks, as they say. Adam, are you going to watch Based Sam Hyde's show tonight? Well, it's 25 past 11. I'll be going to bed an hour or two. I don't know if I can, then sure. I'm really bad with cringy stuff. Like, I fucking can't watch things which are cringy. And a lot of Sam stuff, like, kind of is that, especially when it's live. So I don't know if I'll try and grin and bear it, but we'll see. Have you read the Bible? Yes. Are you actually gay? Yeah, I'm really gay. I just can't stop I just can't stop sucking dicks, honestly, guys. This hangout should be renamed Autism Anonymous. Yeah, actually, right. We should fucking. Should we do these? Fuck. I want to do more kind of formal podcasts, and I actually want to make them as podcasts, not YouTube videos. It's just you doing it on YouTube is really easy. That's just like,
we've got connections issues, haven't we?
Yeah, we do have connection issues, but I'm sure if we did it through fucking Skype, if we're going to do like podcasts and things, we equally have connection issues there because it's my internet, right?
Yeah. Are you going to do? Would that be based off your Adam Wallace logo, or would you do that through West Coast Reaction Rates? Because I think it'd be great if we could have the Plebeian podcast, the brand of that, but put it on West Coast Reaction Rates.
I want to do
a
that.
podcast.
Yeah. I want to have a West Coast Reactionaries podcast. We can have that be Plebeian podcast, or we can basically just rename it and have it as a WCR podcast, right? WCRP. Mm-hmm. That'd be cool. We can do that.
I think that'd be good. It needs to be regular though, because we've
exactly.
It's pretty annoying that these things have been sort of not been getting on. We've not been able to get on with these things for various reasons. But
yeah, that's the thing. I would need things to just be more structured and organized, and we would need a proper platform. And all the best podcasting platforms require a bit of money. So, like SoundCloud, for example, there is a limit to file storage, which I was originally gonna host like MP3s of everything I do on SoundCloud, and I gave it a go, but I could only host like a few things, especially considering some of our discussions are like 3 hours long. So
let's talk about that a bit more. The Plebeian podcast has been fairly successful, and if our target audience is only a small number of people compared to like reaching out and trying to get as many as possible, then it's really feasible through SoundCloud and with a bit of money. It'd be definitely something I'd be interested in helping out with, because it's just because of its success so far, plus the way West Coast Reactionaries is shaping up as well. I feel like I'm willing to put more into it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, dude. I really appreciate it, and I want to reciprocate that. Like I said earlier about the idea of of actually publishing an anthology of the best of West Coast reactionaries, and if we can get, you sell it for like, £5 or even less if we can.
With
depending
based
on
Greg
sale.
Johnson's Countercurrents editor in
Well,
chief.
we don't even need to do that. We can do it through
Like
things like Lulu and other avenues. But
Amazon
I would
Kindle.
just like to give something back to you guys, even if it's just, like I told you, just a few quid. Just so you can get a pint in celebration.
Or you
I
could
really
do
want
free
to.
copies of the books to the people who contributed in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than just a bit of money, because it would be, for example, like one of the things that I thought was a nice little bonus from a place where I work is that sometimes I get free stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Rather than like extra money or something. In this day and age, everybody needs some money. So unfortunately, people are going to have to be wage slaves unless they live on a farm or
exactly. Yeah, it's my predicament. It's my predicament. I
have a
need to
huge
start.
trust fund or something.
Yeah, but it's exactly my predicament. I need to start doing all this, and unfortunately, asking for shekels. Or to be fair, I'm not asking people for money, but it does eventually fucking come into it. Like things.
Free domain radio funded by the viewers.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. Despite Stefan and $1 Molyneux begging,
No, but he does. He begs. He does something. It does. Well, I mean, all this stuff comes across as a little bit of begging, but is quality, and
it is, right? Yeah, that's the thing. If you can make the quality worth people saying, yeah, I'll give you £5, then that's cool.
Yeah.
Most of what I do, it might be intellectually quote unquote highbrow, but the way it's packaged is for the most part quite moderate. Me doing fucking Google Hangouts. It's not a fully polished 1080p background laden podcast with a title sequence and all the rest of that good shit. I would like to do all that. I would like to sort this sort of thing out, all these things out, but I can't do it all by myself. I can manage what I'm doing right now by myself, doing this channel, Western Reactionaries, my blog, doing these talks, and other little things which come up. That's fine. But to really formalize everything, I would need to be closely cooperating with other people. I've tried to kind of do this with people, but it's not easy. It's just.
$1.
$1. But yeah, I want to formalize things and to do all that. It's cool, but it isn't.
I liked your idea of, in a small way, making West Coast Reactionaries a little bit more professional by telling people to take out stupid extra letters, characters from their names, and to write a little blurb about themselves. It's good. But the thing is,
cleans it up.
Yeah. I would probably encourage all of our authors to read each other's writing as well, because I was looking at an article by Hotheris from February, and nobody had commented on it. I don't know if anybody had read it. But,
I read it. I read everything. I do read everything.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I have to edit it all. But yeah, as part of the. I don't want West Coast Reactionaries to just be a dumping ground for people's miscellaneous thoughts just because. I want it to be a kind of a hub, in a way, a kind of community.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
I do wonder if sometimes people don't read, especially some of the recent articles not from you, but from a couple of other people, where topics have been mentioned before, and there's just not any awareness of that. And Argent's fucking biography is his description has the word Randy in it. That really annoyed me. Oh well.
Mm-hmm.
Randy. It's fucking this TRS speak word that no one ever fucking remembers what it means. And like our website isn't it's not really a TRS tier website. There's a bit of overlap, but it isn't We don't use words like swipple and dindu. It's not our
Yeah,
thing.
we don't use. We might use a couple of NRX terms, but we don't use a lot of TRS terms.
No.
Because I mean, if TRS is one of the great examples of the alt-right zeitgeist, I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a really it's an all-encompassing, it's an all-encompassing kind of nexus, that place with the podcast there and everything. You have this tightly knit community centered around the blog, the podcast and the forum, the podcasts and the forum, and the lexicon there functions well because everyone is kind of on the same page. But we're kind of outside of that, and it's just a different type of website. West Coast Reactionaries, it is. We have articles there about metaphysics and theology and history and.
We're sort of a bridge towards like the Gornahor and the
Yes, we are.
social matter a little bit, and what's the other one? Maybe not social matter so much.
Some of the stuff.
I'm trying to think. Nick V. Steve's. What's that thing called?
Or reactivity place.
Yeah, that's what I think you should do. Like, there's the This Week in Reaction or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind when you said you were going to do an anthology of articles.
Right.
But he does that every week. But
yeah, he does. It's getting too big for him. I think he needs help with it. I was disappointed. He listed my recent not the 3 questions for part 14 of Primer, but part 13 when I talk about suicide. He mentioned that, but it was just he just said Adam Wallace has a particularly personal tract with yada yada, and that was it. Didn't mention the whole point of the article and me talking about suicide and its multifarious dimensions and that kind of element to it. It was I don't think it wasn't listed as I would have liked. That's just me being picky, I suppose. But it just gives me the impression that Nick isn't. There's so much material he can't just by himself read absolutely everything, explain absolutely everything adequately. But yeah, I wouldn't do that if we were going to do an anthology. If I was going to compile something, I would, I would have a contents, and I would have perhaps by author, and then alphabetically, I would list articles, maybe at least 5 from each author, if I can do that. Although there are a couple of people who haven't even got that yet, which is frustrating. But I would also go into our analytics and look at the most popular ones and so on and so forth. Because some of the ones, for example, Christopher Grant, you, James, P.T. Carlo, Testis, Hathras as well, have been really, really good stuff. And I want there to be more activity in the comments because there isn't much. We get the views, but we don't get the comments, and we don't get the kind of user activity or reader activity, which disappoints me. I think that'll change with time, but it's one of those things I think needs to change. And aligning a podcast with West Coast Reactionaries would remedy that, I believe. We get a lot of these fuckers here listening to this. We get those guys involving themselves, maybe. But I would like to do that. Doing a podcast, I want to do it probably that. I want to just host it on YouTube. I want to do it through Podomatic or something. So yeah, that's that. East Anglian Pride rambles a bit more. He says, "You finished painting your house yet?" No, we've done most of the back. I took a picture on my Tumblr of it before we started. I'll take another picture once it's done. It looks much better. We had to fucking redo all the guttering, take out the guttering, replace it, put new guttering in, put a facing board in, take out all the old trash, fix some fucking tiling. It's fucking the whole lot. We got this like fucking 3-story scaffolding that me and my granddad built to fucking do the thing. I don't like heights. I'm fucking scared of heights, so it was fucking good fun for me. My granddad down at the bottom shaking it while I was at the top. There you go. Changed topic there a bit drastically, I know, but sorry about that. Right, let me have a look at some of these other comments. Duncan, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Oh, cool, yeah, good. I'm just double checking again.
Right.
Hopefully, Cygnus says in the next month or two, I'm going to write an article on Plotinus and Neoplatonism. I would appreciate that, Cygnus, because I've been wanting to fucking go into Neoplatonism, and I'm lazy and I haven't. But if you did that,
Isn't that mentioned on about is it Callegro on Gornahor about being some of the authors to read
yeah,
for the Egyptian tradition or something like that?
I can't remember. I haven't kept that much going
Not
on
the exact thing.
recently.
It's on.
I've kind of neglected it.
It's the thing that Hotherus was mentioning about finding the
Prisca theology. Yeah. Part of that because the French guy talks about Egypt being the actual hearth of Europe, or the bosom, the spiritual bosom of Europe. How I imagine it anyway.
It's because the Celts came from Egypt and then went to Scotland and took the Stone of Destiny, which is actually a symbol of the center of the world.
Yeah. Of course,
that's sort of not right. It's sort of true, actually.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
East Anglian Pride says, I tell you what, though, going off on a tangent, Sargon of Akkad is right when he says the alt-rightists are similar to liberals vis-a-vis SJW-ing like crybabies. ATM. What? Who is what? I'm sorry, East Anglian Pride, we aren't really alt-rightists here. We fit within that to a degree, but we aren't really white nationalists. So, we're special snowflakes, so treat us accordingly, you shitlord. I'm sorry, this whole fucking alt-rightists have principles, SJWs have principles, therefore, they're the same. I'm sorry, anyone who is a self-proclaimed quote-unquote moderate is a retard. There is not a single intelligent one of them. They're all...
It's cowardly as well.
They're just kind of, I'm going to sit on the fence here. I'm so superior to all of you people to my left and right having opinions. I don't know anything. I don't have opinions,
I mean,
who's to know what the truth is?
This point. I think Dante makes this point as well, and several other people. It's a recurring theme that inaction is like it's one of the worst sins you can commit, because you're essentially like you're giving up all of your agency to the whims of fate, and you're not in the Christian sense that you are the guy who buries his gold coin in the ground and does nothing, whereas everybody else at least attempts to use of what God has given them.
Yeah.
Even if they fail, they're rewarded for trying.
Yeah. There's these kind of quote unquote moderates. Wasting your time with them, very honestly. People like Carl Benjamin and Armored Skeptic and all these kind of atheists and Thunderfoot and all these retards. There's nothing special or interesting really about any of them. It's just the same old shit. And it's funny, none of them are really interesting like people. They're all kind of like personality-wise, they're all just kind of dry and boring and bourgeois, and it's just kind of disappoints me. Anyway, yeah, Jack says alt-right is the circles you are in, not an ideology. Absolutely, it's more a network community than anything else. I've been at this point for fucking months. I mentioned the word white nationalism, or term I should say, because yeah, a large portion, the center of the alt-right network, I suppose, community is centered around nationalism and kind of white identity politics in America. That's fine. That's the hub of things. But where we are in the network, in the community, is kind of on the fringe. If you want to visualize it like that. Do you discuss Evola with my granddad? No. My grandfather, bless him, is a wise and an honourable man, but he is a 72-year-old Londoner, working class kind of. He's stuck in the 1960s, and he kind of carries that with him. Very much anti-intellectual. quite strongly. You have this trait with working class, especially Englishmen. I think, where you have this real bitterness regarding anything which is perceived as above them. So, good grief! Yeah, my mother was another gave me a very good example of this the other night. In my talk at the Extremist Club, I used the word irreligiosity. My mother didn't know what that meant, and it's quite obvious what it means. But she said, "No, what's that word there? What does that mean?" I told her, and instead of saying, "Oh, okay," she said, "Oh, I wouldn't use that word." You know, why wouldn't you? It was a tone in the body language, and you get this sense of, "Oh, you're just trying to be clever. You're just trying to sound more intelligent than everyone else, aren't you?" And you have this kind of bitterness. My cousin isn't like edgy like I am. He watched a film. Me and my cousin are on the same page a lot of things. He watched a film with his dad, and my cousin, in talking about the film with his dad afterwards, said used the word demographics to describe who the film was trying to be aimed at. And my cousin's dad said, "Oh, you're using that word. You're just trying to sound cleverer than everyone else." So you have this kind of inferiority complex with the working man. Unfortunately, it's totally fucking unnecessary and retarded. And most of this does come from kind of victim politics of the past few decades, wanting to make the lower classes feel resentment of the higher classes or middle class or anything which is perceived as quote unquote above them. They don't want to aspire to assimilate it or to reach towards it or to just accept it as the way things are. But you just have this kind of resentment and wanting to bring everything down to their level. It's disappointing. It's a total waste of time because my family, they are working class, London based kind of proletarians. They are intelligent and honourable people. They are not stupid people at all. Um, but you just have this attitude. You have this rejection and kind of sneering at anything which might even be perceived as quote unquote middle class or upper class or above them. It's very silly and unfortunate. And I'm a kind of black sheep because I like to read and think, so I'm kind of totally disconnected from my family. So there you go. Adam, when will you do another Let's Play on your second channel? Never. I don't know. I probably don't know. I don't. Like I said, I'm not a video game person. I haven't touched that fucking AQ world since that night. Um, if I do it again, I will just be rambling, and that'll be in the background. It just makes for more interesting viewing than just a still image, and just gives me an excuse to tinker with things and just have a laugh. But yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah. As Van Sinner, good grief, some German there. Van Sinner Brevet. I'm not going to bother. Observator. Vanis and Observator. There we go. This is the holier than thou corner of the alt right. Absolutely. Yes, that's right, guys. We all think we're better than everyone else. Mystical fascists here. Mystical fascists. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, if you, Adam, if you speak about things in so abstract a way, they can't get you, can't shut you down.
Exactly, that's true. If you're really obtuse with language, then they can't shut you down. The JIDF have no idea what you're talking about. So that's why you have to use esoteric language and use the word esoteric a lot.
It's like Cockney rhyming slang.
Yeah. Apples and pears. I'm trying to think now. You've said that I can't do Cockney rhyming slang. When I'm drunk, I get a kind of Cockney twang to my accent from my family, of course. But I can't think of any apples. Yeah, apples and pears. There are loads of them, but I just can't remember any of them. For you, Bob. I'm trying to think of things my granddad says. Calling people calling people cocker, um, for short for like cockney or like a cock, like a bird, not a dick. Good grief. I can remember stupid like songs and things like that. Who the damn you think you am? You think you're better than every self. Why don't you pick on someone you're own big enough? I think that's from like some fucking silly '60s comedy sketch or something. Yeah, Mr. Coolmug, this is why I laughed at. He said, "We're white nationalists, but with a bit more King Arthur." Pretty much.
I'd probably say that I'm an Evolian racist.
An Evolian racist. That's a good one.
Yeah. or racialist, I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's still hard to get your head around, but it's similar to what I was looking at recently about the idea of evolution, where we're all descended from monkeys. And there was a good thing on Going On, I'll just find it, about orangutans. But there are spiritual races just as much as there are genetic races. And in times gone by, it was less about for the example, in the Roman world, to be a Roman, you had to be spiritually Roman rather than ethnically Roman.
Yeah.
Although the aristocracy still believed that they were descended from the gods, like a lot of other pagan tribes. And that's why one of the reasons why we can't revive paganism like that, because you can't just simply like uproot yourself and put yourself into a stream of people descended from gods. It's just not possible.
Yeah. The question of evolution from that sort of perspective is an interesting one, and I have me and Hothoris, we didn't clash over it, but Hothoris is kind of doesn't follow that sort of viewpoint. I kind of do, but I'm open to disagreement and I'm open to hearing other points of view. So I'm yet to invest in myself any which way in that question because I haven't looked it up too much. It is an interesting one though.
Yeah, here we are. Orangutans and Gnosis. It has been widely reported today that orangutans and humans share 97% of their genes in common. What you'll find out next will only be reported on Gonahor. The man in the street and the initiate share 100% of their genes in common. St. Anthony the Great reported this fact 1,500 years ago.
Yeah.
So
So it shows you can have the same, obviously, bodily being as another, but the spiritual dimension can be totally different. And it is, again, having a biologically determined worldview, whereby evolution really is the crux of the matter, that's where, if you want to still accept the existence of the spiritual realm, things become quite complicated. At least to someone like me, who was born into an atheistic, materialistic, scientistic frame of mind, born into that world, and that's what I was until 3 years ago. And I had to kind of deprogram all that and try and find awkward ways of wrestling these traditional teachings with what I've been taught in modernity. So there's still something one navigates through. Right, I'll have a look. I've missed a lot of comments here. Saw's Eyes has played AQ Worlds. Lad, I was a fucking founder of that game back in 2006. I was there in alpha and beta testing. I remember being 10 years old and thinking I was part of something really important. It was just this shitty fucking web game. Oh, good times. But yeah, me and my friends used to play as well, Swords Eyes. Oh dear. Is this the most autistic part of the alt-right? Yeah, probably. We're kind of. I don't think we're as autistic as the kind of libertarian section or the MGTOW section or kind of the anti-feminist section. That's quite autistic, but we are getting there slowly but surely. Because most of our autism is ironic, and I say that word most. It's quite important. PK Arc says, honestly, lads, I'll design a custom ink WCR hoodie if I can only get 5 other lads to buy up. Mate, PK Arc, fucking message me on Skype, you little shit, and we'll sort something out. Because I did design like a sticker logo, and we can maybe use that. That'd look good. And actually, Ed, based Babylonian Hebrew, our resident sneaky Semite, based fucking Ed, did print out the stickers I designed and posted them around New York City. You know, so we're spreading the word, guys. Well, there was a few of them, not too many, but there you go. Yeah, dare people to say we don't support activism now. Yeah, we do. Fucking print these stickers. That's our activism for you. But yeah, we can do that, PK. We can make some hoodies. I will if you're gonna do that, I'll make a video asking who would buy this. You know, depending of course on the price. No one's gonna buy it if it's 50 quid. But we'll sort something out, and I can do a poll, see what the response would be. If it's good, then we can go ahead with it and try something out. Maybe, I don't know, some of these t-shirt websites, maybe they'll do it for us. Yeah, we can. That'd be cool. I would buy one. I'd wear it just to shill my own website. You get like a hat, you know. Make the West Coast reactionary again. Adam, what do you think about the fading of regional cultures in British Isles and USA? It's terrible. It's really fucking terrible. Where I am in the southwest, in Devon, even in my lifetime, I've seen it. Various sorts of villages growing in size, housing estates popping up out of nowhere, and all these kind of not desolate, not at all desolate. I'm thinking of the word disparate. Kind of villages that are separated by miles and miles of farmland, suddenly growing and basically merging, and yeah, it's a terrible shame. That's globalization for you, and you're seeing it disappear. Different accents, for example, there are fewer accents than there used to be. Very rarely will you hear in Devon someone talking like this. You won't really hear it down these parts no more, my lad. It's not a very common thing. You might if you go right into the fucking heart of the country or into Somerset, in like some tiny little village town somewhere. You might find that. You know, it'll be like the old 80-year-old farmer who's lived there his entire life, whose parents lived there. Just him. He'll talk like this. He'll go, "Oi, me lad, what are you doing in our village? We don't really know outsiders around here." It's a fucking funny story. When my family moved down from London to Exeter in the 90s, my grandmother was not harassed, but treated rudely by a resident farmer who said that he didn't like foreigners because she was from London, and he's obviously in Devon. As in the 90s, old farmers, "Oh, we don't like these foreigners from London, or the other side of the country. We don't like your type around there." So you have this. It's amazing, and that's the same country. And I think my nan actually replied to him, "Yeah, you wait until you see foreigners," because obviously London in the 90s was still very brown, which is part of the reason my family moved out. White flight, lads, it's a thing. It's very unfortunate, but there you go. But yeah, it's interesting with these sort of regional dialects and funny-duddy sorts of peculiarities which exist in different cities. I mean, we still have it, like, in some ways. Here in Exeter, we think everyone from Tiverton is inbred. but they think the same about us. So it's like you have this like petty interplay. If you have a friend from Tiverton, and it's just silly little thing like that. But it's culture. It's about identity and the homeland. Um, I mean, personally, I am really more East English than I am West English. My father was from York and my mother was from London. So, but no, it's a shame you're losing all these things. Right. Are you talking about the Elder Scrolls again? No, 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 no. I can do that if you really want me to. I'll do that on my second channel, ramble about video games. I won't bother with that here. Right. Source Eyes puts in brackets WCR branded merch. Come on, lad. Are you implying some implications? It's kind of sad how the West Country dialect is dying. Yeah, it is. It is. We are lucky where I am. You still have remnants of the kind of agrarian lifestyle and the old church town villages, hamlets. They still exist where I am in Exeter. You just walk like 15 minutes north, and you'll find Poltimore, which is a lovely old village, and other little places here and there. But well, no, it's not really 15 minutes, about half an hour walk. But nevertheless, you go a few miles north where I am in Exeter, and you'll come across some really old places. But a lot of the history is still existent and observable. They haven't demolished the cathedral, or St. Nicholas Priory, or the Roman Wall, or the remnants of the old churches and monasteries. And so you still have it. It's not like everything has just been glassed and then skyscrapers built on top of it. It's not like that. All right, no, guys, we are not going to talk about the Elder Scrolls here. this is the channel. Yeah, we have a joke and a laugh, but we keep that that stuff away from here.
Can we talk about how Henry Tudor and Henry VIII brought England into the modern world? It was compounded by Oliver Cromwell.
We could. You can
I read
monologue
that
for a
recently.
while. Yeah. Explain.
I was reading the history of the English Church, but from the Encyclopedia Catholica. So it was written in early 20th century, and it's basically the history of the Church of England since the break with Rome, and essentially Henry VIII was made supreme governor of the church, or the head of the church, and he was accorded all powers that the Pope had previously. And this is the fundamental problem, according to the author of the encyclopedia, and many other whoever contributed, that because of this, that created a rigidity in the structure, which made it unable to be changed, and therefore, like no canons were able to be passed or anything like that. And so I've also read that Oliver Cromwell, in founding the Commonwealth, and for all intents and purposes abolishing the monarchy with the with the trial and then of the king, brought England into line with other Protestant countries, more so in Europe, and sort of modernized the country.
Yeah.
Although I would also say that the date of when we say we're entering the early modern period is around the fall of Constantinople, and I think in England it's more clear to say, it's more correct to say that it was when Richard III was killed and Henry VII took the throne. And you see an increasing centralization of power since Edward III onwards, and then of course the war, the Rosa sort of messed everything up a little bit, but then the sort of hard grip that Henry VII had on the kingdom by the time he died, through royal agents who were able to go about the country extorting money from people. And actually, the impression I got when I was studying this is that people were quite glad when Henry VII died and his son came to the throne. It's just a shame that Henry VIII had all these delusions of grandeur, and which saw him use up all the money his father had saved for him, and then on top of that, compounding it to get more money. And conveniently, after he'd been made head of the church, he destroyed the monastic life in England through taking of the dissolution of the monasteries, taking their wealth and redistributing it to nobles, and taking money to squander it in useless wars. But at the same time, he was a fairly ardent Catholic who wrote a treatise on defending the faith. That's why he got the title Defender of the Faith, and he remained so until his deathbed. But for his own gain, he opened the door to Protestant reformers, which now I would say that, looking back on it, I would say that they were revolutionaries more than reformers. And this group of men was heavily influenced by Calvinists and Lutherans. Well, this is another point that the encyclopedia makes, and thus it's clear that it has very strong links to the Protestantism, Reformation on the continent. And but the thing is, this is very the Anglicanism, which the settlement which was made by Elizabeth, and then again after after Cromwell's Commonwealth came to an end with the creation of the 1662 Book of Common Prayer. This gave Anglicanism a unique style, like a via media between Catholicism and continental Protestantism. So I think that's an important part of our heritage, the Book of Common Prayer, the King James Bible, these pieces of work. But I think that's emphasizing that. At the same time, you don't want to overemphasize that when there is clearly a lot of work on the other side as well. The Divines, the Oxford movement, the Tractarians, even the Douay-Rheims Bible, written by Englishmen in Rheims who had fled persecution, released around the same time and in a similar language. and I have a copy of each. I have a copy of the Douay Rheims Bible. I have a copy of the King James Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I think this can be summarized in, if you look at Peter Hitchens, who's a 1662 Book of Common Prayer Protestant, his son is a Roman Catholic.
That's interesting. Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny. But I quite like Richard III and how he's been demonized, especially in Shakespeare. And I almost think that perhaps it is a good idea to return to Catholicism, return to what was a traditional society until Henry Tudor and then Henry VII and Henry VIII came and ruined it. Henry Tudor, Henry VII being a Welshman as well.
Yeah. Dude, fucking hell. You could have your own just podcast of you just talking.
Well, it's just all history. I mean, it's
yeah.
It's not as esoteric as some of the stuff you say, but yeah, I suppose I should do more.
Don't fucking do that.
I should do more history stuff. Yeah.
It's
becoming a meme.
yeah. Well, the whole esoteric thing is a meme with me, but you rambling about history could easily become a meme for you. So watch out.
But then the memes might become real. Fuck.
Implying meme logic isn't legit. But
yeah, I know. I mean, imagine if you can make your dreams real, you can surely make memes real.
Yeah. Well, so basically the whole point is that Protestantism was a mistake. Luther, not even once.
No, it's one of those things where clearly at the time of the Protestant Reformation, there were people agitating for reform, and there were also and people like Luther who wanted to reform the church, but in voicing their opinion, they were used as a focal point for further agitation. And then there was things like the Peasants' Revolt, when they thought they could, basically cause a revolution and overthrow their feudal overlords. And then Luther wrote a tract against them and said to the German nobles to crush them by any means possible, so he clearly didn't. The other point as well, and more maybe an esoteric level, is that Protestantism being the most Judaic form of Christianity, already having a Judaic element, why do you need to double down on the Judaic element? It's something you have to admit, but it's as I wrote in that essay, Christianity is 1/3 of the European spirit, or that's what I wrote anyway. So you don't need to have twice as much of that. Do you see what I'm saying? You just cancel it. Cancel it out.
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think there is much of a Judaic element to Christianity beyond its actual history. And
beyond its history, there isn't. No, you're right. There isn't. But when you look at Protestantism, it's different. It is more Judaic. Like the lack of like going back to the burning their groves and that kind of thing, and getting rid of all the icons and stuff. Maybe, I don't know, but there's actually quite a lot of evidence to suggest that historically speaking, and in other ways, that the Catholic Church was a in-group defense against Judaism. Kevin MacDonald wrote a good piece several pieces on a website called Occidental
Observer.
Something.
Yeah.
Observer, yeah. Which I mean, that's looking at it from a
a white nationalist point of view.
Yeah, like a psychological,
cultural,
biological.
It's a materialistic sort of point of view.
Yeah, he is looking at it, but he makes the point that that's perhaps why they went in there and got rid of the traditional aspects during Vatican II, and that's why hopefully the traditionalists are holding out. But you're definitely right. You're right there. It's a bit of a materialistic, or it's not really a traditional overview of it. But it's important to make a point about to know these things. I think that anybody with an interest in that could read Kevin MacDonald's book, Culture of Critique, while as a rough overview rather than a take it as read. This is happening, and we need to get rid of the parasite, for example.
Yeah. I mean, the trouble with that sort of viewpoint is the fact that, yes, you remove Kipper, but what of the self? Why is Kipper there even in the first place? Do you know why Cromwell repealed the Edict of Expulsion? Do you know what the reasoning was for it?
The Edict of Expulsion with Edward the First. It was to, well, it's partly because he has to do it as a it's written in Magna Carta, and it's also because they were not corrupting the people, but they were taking advantage of the people.
Yeah, but why was it repealed?
Well, the Edict of Expulsion by Oliver Cromwell. Why did Cromwell repeal it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think primarily he repealed the Edict of Expulsion and allowed Jews back into to England so that he could use them as a financial means of finance, because the New Model Army was very expensive to run.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's actually in Magna Carta that the monarch has a duty to protect his Christian subjects from Jews. And
Based Magna Carta.
Well, Edward the First tried to convert them. He said to the Jews, like, you stop doing this and you're going to convert to Christianity, and they obviously refused, so he expelled them. But that actually happened a lot in Europe. They were moved around Europe by various kings wanting to kick them out of their country.
Yeah.
But also kings found them very useful, because as Christians they couldn't use interest rates or loans and stuff, so they would use Jews to do that. But at the same time, they could easily just get rid of them if they were becoming a problem. And it would be beneficial to get rid of them in some points, because they would be able to say, well, you can only take as much as you can carry with you, so everything else we're going to confiscate.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, in a way, unfortunate that Cromwell actually repealed it. I don't know, the whole Jewish thing. I will save that actually for another day, because when I want to do a talk with Ed about the Jewish question. We'll do it then. We'll talk about the Jewish question then. It will probably fucking be when it actually is here in England, and I can actually hold him physically so he can actually stay still and do this podcast with me. So there you go. We'll do that then. We'll talk about the Jews then.
I mean, it's something to be aware of, but it doesn't need to be
obsessed over.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've said this loads of times. It's just something to be aware of. It's more like the fact that we're a spiritually weak body, and they're a parasite on us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. The occult war, I mentioned this a few times, that Evelyn and Gainon wrote about, I think is a very real thing. People who just focus just solely upon the Jews, their attention is all there, so things go right past them and they don't even notice it. Which is unfortunate that it happens to some people, but like I said earlier today regarding what the quote-unquote right wing should do, it should be on all fronts. What we should be doing is making arguments and getting people aware of questions of a cultural nature, a political nature, a philosophical nature, a spiritual nature, a demographic nature, everything, absolutely everything we should cover. Leave no sector unattended, because our crisis is multifarious. It is not just, oh, it's the darkies, oh, it's the kikes. It's a combination of many factors. And just dealing with one thing like that of that nature won't deal with all the other problems, because most of our problems are internal in our society.
Yeah, and even though there are flaws in analysis, Glubb makes the excellent point that it's a lack of energy. If you've seen the series Civilization by Kenneth Clark, he makes the point as well that the Roman civilization was essentially exhausted, and that's why it began. That was why it began to collapse. It's actually quite lucky that Christianity then took on the form of the Roman law and the Roman state as the hierarchy, and then continued to maintain, if only a small degree, the Roman Empire in the West, and then fostered learning through monasticism, and with connection with the Carolingian dynasty, created a new empire, then we went from there. Really, I mean, people like Alfred the Great did the same thing in England, using religious texts as well as scholarly work from across Europe, translating some of it into the vernacular, and with added pressure from outside, from heathen Danes, created a new kingdom of the Anglo-Saxons, which then became England. And then it's the same with France, Scotland, Spain. All these places were implicitly Christian at the same time as European. That's why you get the idea of Europe is the faith and faith is Europe.
Of course, because Europe didn't exist until Christianity. Really, you had some kind of centralized
there was the Roman
around Roman Empire, but even then, the Roman Empire excluded the Germanics and various other groups.
The Roman Empire was essentially I don't want to say that. There's a large free trade zone.
It wasn't just that, the Imperium.
No, of course, no. But it was an idea which then was exhausted and then found a new home in the Holy Roman Empire, which in turn was exhausted. In fact, actually, perhaps you could say that it never came to the same fruition as the Roman Empire.
Perhaps not, no. But even the Holy Roman Empire was really quite small. It was only an amalgamation of Germanic and Germanic kingdoms.
It was the focal point, perhaps, for the rest of Europe, which was.
But Christendom exists because of Christendom. Europe exists because of Christendom. Sorry, Europe as a unified entity, in some shape or form, as a cultural force, exists because of Christianity. That is the kind of the centralizer which didn't have to centralize, so to speak. You have this kind of shared destiny, even if there are differences within the entity itself. You have this kind of, Europe is not one body, but in the same breath, we can say Europe is one faith. So, of course, in slightly different ways, in various countries. In one way, I want to say Anglicanism was inevitable, that England would develop its own spirituality or its own form of Christianity. I am disappointed, though, that it had to come from fucking Protestantism, because there have been other forms of Brittonic Christianity, like Celtic Christianity, for example, which really flourished in Ireland, which never really took off here. Even going back to the same Bede, and even like Boniface, etc., there are disagreements with Rome that English bishops and priests had. So I think obviously geography is part of that. Just communication takes a long damn time to get from here to Rome, and we were rather isolated after the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire. Sorry.
Yeah, the aspect of insular Christianity being what's the word? being separated from the rest of Europe.
Yeah. So I think it was inevitable that Britain kind of had its own quote unquote version of Christianity, its own exotericism. But it is such a shame that it had to be Protestantism. It had to have been this force, this kind of Judaicized force, this kind of liberalized force, this kind of this break with tradition. And obviously Anglicanism was seen when it first kind of was formulated as a middle way between the tradition and the Reformation. It was seen as a unifier of the two strands. It was seen almost as a synthesis, but unfortunately, the kind of
the weaker element made the rest of it collapse.
The weaker element has kind of come to dominate, which is quite disappointing. Anyway, it's 12:30. I'm rambling to the point of my voice getting a little weak, and we've covered.
I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, man.
That's probably why I'm rambling.
Yeah, it's alright. It's not a problem. It's good. We're recording it. You know, people are going to listen to this. You can quote it. It's out there. It's media. So there you go. Yeah, Anglicanism was a break from Rome, not a reformation, but Anglicanism exists because of partly Protestantism, which was really a reformation. Oh, fuck's sake, hold on a minute. Mr. Cormac, I think you understood what I'm saying, and therefore I'm responding to you with different expectations than the ones you have. What wasn't Anglicanism, are you saying? Anglicanism was partly a reformist doctrine. It is. It is not Catholicism, is it? It is not a totally traditional sort of Christianity. It has those softer elements, those more inclusive elements. There's, in some ways, more Judaicized elements. But there you go. I'm too tired to bother debating any of this anyway. I think you are doing as well.
Envirofascist was going to write an essay on this.
Well, he hasn't. John hasn't messaged me or anything for months.
Yeah, he's away with the fairies.
Eh?
No, he's away with the fairies. Well, he's not literally, but he's got other stuff on, I think. So he's just not interested at the moment.
I was worried. I was worried you was implying he'd gone mad.
No, he said that Protestantism was more spiritually consistent than Catholicism, and it would be better for us to look for a spiritual renewal in Protestantism than Catholicism. And that was a thought that he had, and I said, well, why don't you write an essay on it? He said, oh yeah, I will do, and he hasn't. So
that's quite a statement. We have several Catholics writing for West Coast Reactionaries. Testis, James, I think Arjun is Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to see the response to that if he ever does it. And now Octavian's back saying Catholicism is heresy, TBH. I just think people... I don't think we'll get into that because it's just so much shit flinging. And I'm not an Anglican, a Catholic, or a Protestant. So I'm kind of, I have no idea. So I won't bother with that. So, unless you have anything you want to say, Duncan, I want to shut up. No,
not really. But I just don't want to. I want to apologize for rambling and not being clear. It probably doesn't help that I'm pretty tired.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
You guys can always go and re-listen until you finally understand. And be on the same
I
level.
know you're responding to. Don't fucking pay any mind. Doesn't matter. If you were rambling really badly, I would have told you to shut the fuck up. So there you go. Right. With that, I'm going to tell myself to shut the fuck up, and we're going to leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, for listening for this hangout, and apologies again for the plebeian podcast prior to this not really working due to my network
Yeah, I
state.
mean, if anybody's going to bully anybody, what about Adam with his crappy internet connection?
Stop it! Don't fucking
everybody's internet.
look, cunt. This is listen to me, you cunt. This is a fucking no.
It's an open
This is a
forum.
no bully channel. All right, no bullies allowed.
Free speech, free speech.
No, we don't care about free speech. We don't care. We don't allow bullies here. So we don't have any. We don't have any of your jip, young man. Even though you're older than me, shut the fuck up. We're not having any of that. So, but in all seriousness,
Adam's going to be a new teacher.
in all fucking seriousness, I am sorry, and it is annoying, but we will sort it out eventually.
Well, we also need to look into having podcasts where we can actually
we'll do it. We'll
maintain.
We will talk about
this
all this over the coming week. We'll have some discussions on Skype and elsewhere. Really formulate something, set out a schedule for something. And then we'll work together. I think the biggest problem with all these things on my channel, because I am in control of a lot of it. I'm really the only one doing it. You are one of the few people who've been really consistent, and that's a help. But I want to not just be doing everything by myself. So, I mean, even with West Coast Reactionaries, Andy is an admin, doesn't really do anything for it yet anymore. Sorry, Testis is an editor. He has nothing to edit because everything which gets there's so little which actually gets published. We're like 2 things a week. I get to do it before he fucking does. So, but yeah, the thing with everyone who wants to be involved in anything, if you start working as a team and getting things together like that, we'll sort things out and everything will be dandy. So, right. I'm going to shut the fuck up, finally.
Yeah, good night.
Good night, everyone.